Hey guys, it's Elena with another Procreate demo today. I'm going to do a technique called the ribbon technique, which is by Phoenix Artworks, and I will link to her video below. I'm using my alcohol ink for my amazing alcohol ink brush set, which is available in my shop, and I will put a link to that below as well. The brushes that I will be using from this set are the circle dropper slash thick brush stroke and the blended brush stroke, these two here. You could also use the static brush stroke or the light stroke, but these two do not blend, so you'll get a different look if you use those. So I'm going to start out with the thick brush stroke, and I'm going to use some colors. These are the color palettes that come with the set, and I'm going to use these Pinata ink colors. And you can start out just making sort of a wavy line, and you can be a bit random about that, and just go over it multiple times. And what she does, if you watch her video, is that it's sort of like thinner on the curves and then spreads out on the edges. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. I'm just sort of laying down the foundation with these brushes, and then I'm going to get a bit more wobbly with some of the brushes that I'm going to use, with the brush that I'm going to use after this. So this one is a very smooth brush and not super realistic looking, but it's really great for laying down the foundation. And you'll notice I do use undo quite a lot, and it can be really helpful because as you start to get a lot of pigment down on the canvas, it'll come out looking unexpected, like that one's too dark, so I'll just start in a different place. It takes ink from where you start your brush stroke, so you can always just try again if it just looks weird and try from a different place. Let's see, I don't like that at all actually. Okay, I'm gonna use a different color and then put some down on this side, coming in a different direction. Oops. And just sort of cross over what I've already done there. Yeah, I didn't like that, so I'm going to just start in a different place until I like how it looks. There we go. These brushes are meant to be unpredictable, but that means that you sometimes just have to try again if it just doesn't look how you expected or how you wanted. Okay. Okay, so now I've got sort of a foundation laid down there with this brush. I'm going to go ahead and switch brushes to the wobbly, oops, the blended brush stroke, which is much more wobbly. You'll see in a minute here. And this is the one that you have to be a little bit careful with because it can go crazy if you use it really fast. So you have to be kind of slow and deliberate. But you can see that it has a bit more wobbly edges, which looks very much like alcohol ink, and it can drag. It can drag a lot of stuff from the edges through in interesting ways. So I'm gonna switch back to the purple and keep going with that. when you get a lot more pigment on the canvas, then you can sometimes, you can sometimes end up pulling through some sort of patterns or colors that you're not really interested in having on that particular area. So it can get a little weird, like if I just pull this through, that just looks kind of weird. So, you know, if that happens, just undo and try again. Because just as much as you can get something weird that you didn't want, you can also get something pretty cool that you weren't expecting. So that's kind of where it's a lot like real alcohol ink. See, this is kind of looking weird. You might notice also that when like it will register colors outside of the canvas. So I'm starting outside the canvas and it can pick up color. So you can get have a little bit of fun, make the brush smaller and do some really crazy squiggles if you feel like it. So the idea with this technique is just to keep building up these sort of squiggly lines over top of each other in different groupings so that they sort of look like a tangled knot of ribbons, and just using undo as much as necessary in order to you know, get rid of anything you don't like and try again from a different area. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to go ahead and do some blending. So I like to take the hairdryer blender brush at a fairly small size, and whatever areas that I'm just not 100% happy with, like something that maybe ended up looking a bit weird, I will just add a little bit of this just to add some interest to the area that I'm not particularly happy with. And if you start on a lighter area, it will push the lighter color onto the darker color and vice versa. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the Heavy Bleed blender, and I'm just going to take it to this area down here because I'm not a huge fan of how that looks. So I'm just sort of running it across the brush stroke to get it a bit more faded and a bit more natural looking. And now I'm going back to my Mister brush and using it on the white areas of my canvas so that it sort of splatters up onto the lines in a subtle way. And I'm using different colors. And I'm just going to go ahead and use the various other splatter brushes included in this set to go ahead and splash some different color areas onto the canvas. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my metallic ink liner brush and add some metallic gold to this piece. And I'm just sort of tracing one of the stripes across the page, but where the other stripes or ribbons are crossing over, I just don't color in on that area so that it looks like it's all part of that one stripe. When you're using the gold, it's really important that you put it on its own layer above your drawing because it could react in funny ways with the colors that are already on the layer. So if it ever looks strange, that's because you need to put it on its own layer. Now I'm just adding in, I'm filling out the gold area just a bit more with the ultra fine glitter brush. It's one of the new ones in the update, and if you haven't received the update yet, that's free if you've already bought the brushes. So get in touch and let me know if you're not sure how to update your set. But anyway, I'm just sort of filling it in and stretching out the gold a little bit from the liner where I put it in so that it's more of a faded look. And I'm just going to take that brush, that same brush, and add sort of a metallic, cloud right in here. And now I'm going to take my metallic ink splatter brush and fill that out just a little bit more. It's really fun to sort of combine the metallic brushes with each other and just to see what sort of different effects you can get, what kind of different glitter looks that can come out of it. So I'm adding now with that brush to the edges, and I'm just going to keep on going with that. So now, as the last step, I've selected the very first brush that I used once again, but I'm going to use it differently this time. So this is the one called Circle Dropper slash Thick Brush Stroke. So I'm going to use the Circle Dropper function of it this time, and I'm putting it down on the canvas and just sort of wiggling the brush just a tiny bit. So not a lot, but just enough to sort of make the circle grow with the pressure, and then letting up on it as soon as I'm happy with how that little circle looks. So I'm going to go ahead and do this with a lot of different colors and just try out and see what different circles look good. And this is just sort of meant to look like you've dropped a little bit of ink down with a paintbrush. I've put it on the original layer again because in order to interact with what's on that layer, it needs to be on the same layer. So not on your gold layer, but on the paint layer. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. It's not perfect, this technique. I would say I'd like to spend more time on it and try to get it a little bit better myself, but I hope that this has served as some kind of inspiration for you, and I'm sure that you guys are going to come up with really fun and amazing stuff using this tutorial. So I hope to see some of it, and I'm really enjoying seeing what all the stuff that you guys are coming up with. And yeah, just let me know if you have any questions down in the comments or send me a message, and I will be happy to help out with that. Thanks again.